One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar. Rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. A metal mayhem that will never die. With vengeance roaring, he paves his way. A legend in the making, day by day.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful Friday morning. Let's get it. And we also have a lot of stuff going on in the news. So this morning we're going to be starting off with Iran tensions rise, of course, as you guys may be following on the mainstream. Then, of course, the new Fed chair is being, like sworn in or whatever today. And then, well, I think he already did that. But anyways, he's going to be taking over. Then we have Rubio rejects Cuba diplomacy. All right, so that's the title that I've titled it, but let's go ahead and give you guys the chronological timeline of what we're going to be discussing this morning. So there was some stuff that happened yesterday. We have the video for you guys. Trump rolls back Biden-era refrigerant rules. I'm not really sure exactly what the refrigerant rules are, but I do know that it's something like where it'll save like $1.8 billion or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's regarding trucking. I have no idea what that is in regard of, but we're going to find out together, obviously. Then we have lawmakers speak on budget reconciliation bill. And this is the lawmakers from, it's the Democrat Senate that is going to be speaking this morning to us, at least on this show. Then we have, unfortunately, the sad news, NASCAR legend Kyle Busch dies at 41, man. That's just terrible. It says legendary NASCAR driver Kyle Busch died on Thursday after being hospitalized with undisclosed, quote-unquote, severe illness. Now, I've heard that he's been dealing with going in and out of the hospital a lot in recent times. And so I'm not really sure what his illness was, but maybe we'll find out. And then we have Trump advisor Stephen Miller speaks on $1.8 billion anti-weaponization, fraud, Cuba, and more. So we have a Trump advisor that's going to be speaking and giving, a whole bunch of stuff, whether it's talking about the anti-weaponization fund or Cuba or something else, right? It says and more. Then we have, a report shows U.S. used more interceptors than Israel against Iran attacks. Wow. This came out just 11 hours ago. According to new reporting from the Washington Post, the United States military has used far more advanced interceptors in their effort to defend Israel than the amount used by Israeli forces themselves. What? Well, those Israeli ones are made by us anyway, so it's all ours. Anyways, GOP lawmakers lash out over $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund. So that's interesting that they did a $1.776 billion, 1776. It's definitely interesting. Then we have Minnesota fraud. DOJ charges 15, alleges $90 million were stolen on this particular one. It says the U.S. Department of Justice announced a major fraud indictment in Minnesota, with charges being handed up against 15 people for fraud targeting $90 million in taxpayer funds. Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald said a grand jury handed up an indictment charging 15 people for fraud of that $90 million tax money. Then we have Trump issues a stern warning to Iran that happened just 3 hours ago, and that's what we're going to be, obviously, you guys see that on the thumbnail. Then we have Department of War releases new UFO files. Remember, we do our best here to follow anything that, we report anytime that there's a story that we have already reported on and later comes, well, we're going to present it too. And then we have Dr. Oz on arrest in $90 million Minnesota fraud probe. The reason why I'm going to show that is because it looks like there's some imaging there in post that we'll be able to actually see of the actual place, maybe. So anyways, listen, let's go ahead and do our call to actions first. Real quick, I got to give a big special shout out to Virginia Chaos. Thank you for the 5 gifted as we started. Thank you very much. It goes a long way. It adds up quickly. It definitely does. All right, so let's go ahead and do our call to actions real quick, and then we'll get into the madness. Make sure you guys hit that like button, double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side, and hit that subscribe button. This is what we do Monday through Saturday, actually, Monday through Friday, but then we have Saturday morning for members only. Now, speaking of members, please consider becoming a member, starting only at $3.99 a month. We're making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody, but check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as have these lights on. So thank you guys for becoming members and staying members. A little side note here, follow my Instagram at BallValveTV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time, breaking news, all that great shit, man. We also have a Discord server for all of you legends as well, where we continue the conversation because we're only on the live for an hour. Well, we try to keep it at an hour. We continue the conversation in Discord. So the video description down below will have the link. And of course, you guys can join up there. And last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, we have these platforms there scrolling around the screen somewhere. And of course, if you donate to those, I get 100% of the proceeds. And of course, I'll read out loud anything that comes our way, just like a super chat. So we're going to be scanning. I've got my email up. We'll always be scanning. Great to see everyone in the chat, man. Thank you all for hanging out with us this morning. We got a lot to get through, actually, this morning. It's a lot going on. We got Gary in the building, as well as Desert Outlaw. Good morning to you guys. No, good morning to you, as well as Steve Easy and Steve Posey. Good morning to you, gentlemen. We got Carrie over there from Rob's Neighbor. Always appreciate you as well. We got PJ in the building as well. We always appreciate you, kind sir. We got Rabbit of Chaos as well. Good morning to you and Pablo. Yes, sir. We got Naomi. Bitch, oh me. Great to see you in the chat as well. We got Sick Bastard. Yes, sir. Good morning to you. We're scrolling as fast as humanly possible. I promise you. We got RTLW. Good morning to you. I see you in the chat. I see you. We got TNT. Yes, sir. Good morning to you. Great. Always appreciate you. Let's see. We're scrolling as fast as possible, dude. It's a lot of people. We got Motobomb Virginia. Yes, sir. Good morning to you, as well as Brother TVT up there in Canada land. Always appreciate you, as well as Jack up there in Canada land as well. Always appreciate you, gentlemen, for hanging out with us this morning. We got Provo. Yes, sir. Let's get this news. Absolutely. We're about to get into it. We got Charles Darwin from Down Under. We always appreciate him as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into the madness. We've got this first story we're going to be talking about. Trump rolls back Biden-era refrigerant rules.
All right, looks like, just like I said, happening.
I don't even know what the context is to that, by the way. I saw it yesterday as like the title. But I never watched it. I was too busy yesterday, and so we're going to find out.
Very quick as we head into the Oval Office here with President Trump, the camera kind of all over the place
let's
as
just
it's
skip
on the
forward.
ground. Essentially, what's going to happen here is they'll set up super quick, and then we'll get those remarks from President Trump as well as EPA Administrator, and as you can see there, a lot of other folks. Again, the topic.
Thank you very much for that in a minute.
There we go.
Today is my honor to be discussing the taking of a very historic action to substantially lower costs for consumers, protect hundreds of thousands of jobs, and save Americans well over $2 billion a year by officially terminating the Biden administration's ridiculous regulations imposing costly requirements on refrigerators and air conditioners. It's ridiculous, unnecessary, and costly, and actually makes the machinery worse. I want to thank EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, Senators John Husted John, thank you. I heard you're doing very well in your race, I hear. That's what the word is. And Ashley, I know you're doing very well also, Ashley Moody.
And we got two different no-nos in the chat. Good morning to you.
That's great. As well as Representatives Stephanie Bice, Zach Nunn, and Craig Goldman. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you all. You look good. We're joined by Kroger CEO. That's a big one. Kroger, that's a big, I see those stores all over the place. Greg Foran. Where's Greg?
What's up, Provoke? And Paul, good morning.
Just like you're supposed to look. Fairway Store CEO Reynolds Kramer.
You know what's weird about it, Provoke, is I did see a little clip of this on Instagram, actually. And when they did it, they zoomed in, and they may just zoom in right here in the, but you'll see that dude's gut and the belly button, right? Now, what's weird, something that, listen, I'm an observant, okay? He's got a striped shirt on, if you guys can't tell. He's got this striped shirt. When he breathes, you can see his gut moving, and the lines are doing that like optical illusion where it's like moving the lines. It's so fucking strange, bro. Like I saw that shit yesterday. I was like, dude, I got to change this. We got Naomi coming in with the 5 spot, by the way, saying Steve Easy selling butt hugs for free, 99 in the Discord today, 99 cents in the Discord today only. Yeah. Well, how can it be free if it's 99 cents? But hey, appreciate the 5 spot, Naomi. Always appreciate that. All right, let's see here. We got Kelly. We got Kel from Canada. Great to see you in the chat, my man. As well as, yes, it is. Okay, good. We got Steve Easy. I fell off the wagon, Mike. Been drunk since 9, homie. Shit. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever.
Okay.
It's Friday.
Hello,
Fuck
Reynolds.
it.
Maybe I won't look around every time. Why Not Stop CEO and co-owner Ann Guthier. Ann? Because it's Ann, I'm going to. Columbiana Foods co-owner Ron Graff Sr.
Right here?
Yeah, the waterbed effect.
Ron.
Totally.
Neiman Foods president
What was Trump doing? Grabbing his belly right there? No, I'm just kidding.
Richard Neiman.
Right here, sir.
Richard. Piggy, that's a Piggly Wiggly franchise owner. And that's a big company, too. It's not a cute name. Kevin
$3.99? I've never even heard that.
McDaniel. What's Kevin? How's that name playing? Good?
Piggly Wiggly, right.
Piggly Wiggly. I heard that, actually. That's great. Franchise owner, Kevin. So you met Kevin. And Food Fresh owner, Michael Gay. Food Fresh.
Jeez, why are you gay?
Why are you gay?
Hi, Michael.
Oh, and he's a big boy, too.
And this is a representative
Michael
group of
B.
very
Gay.
large-scale retailers. Under the Biden administration, the so-called technology transition rule, which was crazy, forced companies to adopt specific high-cost refrigerants, massively driving up the price of transporting and storing refrigerants and various goods.
Okay, now that they have zoomed in now, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see when he starts breathing, you'll start seeing the lines move.
Many grocery stores and restaurants had no choice but to replace their refrigerators entirely. They went out of business, half of them. And these costs rose. Americans faced higher grocery prices and reduced access to critical medical supplies. It was a very catastrophic thing that they did. At the same time, this rule also drove up the cost of living by forcing consumers to purchase higher cost residential air conditioning units. They went up very substantially in cost, and also they were going to be obsolete very quickly. It created national security risk by adding additional hurdles to the already complicated process.
Yo, Steve Easy coming in with the 5 spot saying Naomi sells chocolate starfish picks for pet food. Yo, that's crazy. That's wild, brother.
Oh, shit.
Well, thank you very much for the 5 spot. Definitely goes a long way.
Manufacturing semiconductors. So it was a mess. Likewise, the so-called emissions rule imposed crippling leak repair requirements on virtually all existing large-scale refrigeration systems.
Listen, obviously this guy just needs to cut off the beer intake. It's obvious.
Consumers and small businesses, making it almost impossible for many small businesses to even buy inferior equipment. And this is all across the country. The higher cost threatened thousands of jobs and was passed on in the form of higher prices and higher taxes. Today's reforms will deliver significant financial relief, saving American families and businesses more than $2.4 billion. Think of that each year. Thanks to today's reforms, the American people have lower grocery prices, cheaper transportation of goods, a lower cost of air conditioning, at no detriment at all to our country. Zero, including environmental detriment. My administration's historic deregulate.
Man, we got Dono Wars over here. Naomi sending in another 5 spots saying Steve Easy hooks outside DQ, or that's what I'm guessing. Outside DQ for cheeseburgers. Yo, thank you very much for Naomi. Yes, listen, don't be hating on DQ, cuh. I'll take all DQ coupons. I will take them all. Yes, send them to me.
Regulatory agenda has already saved our country an estimated $1.2 trillion. That's been done over a relatively short period of time. 1.2 trillion with a T. We're committed to fixing the and really completely ending Biden's disastrous regulatory policies and delivering financial relief to each and every American, which is what we're doing. This was a tremendous burden, a tremendous cost. These people had to live with it. Not only refrigerants, but a lot more. And it was making the equipment unaffordable.
What's up, Tiffany? Good morning.
And the actual benefit was nothing. It just made it worse. It made life.
And don't worry, we're not going to play this whole thing. I just want to hear what Trump had to say on the front end of this. And then, of course, we got to move on. We got a lot of stories to get through this morning.
Worse, and it made it worse, and it drove up costs tremendously. So now I'd like to ask Administrator Lee Zeldin, who's absolutely fantastic. He's doing an incredible job. We're proud of you, Lee. Really, the job you're doing is incredible. Followed by Greg, Kevin, and Michael. Is that okay? Lee, go ahead, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. As you know, many Americans were expressing a lot of frustration and anger of this rushed, frantic, reckless sprint by the Biden administration to phase out reliable equipment for grocery stores, for restaurants, and for homes. And the consequences, well, they've been devastating. And once again, the Trump administration is answering the call, which will lower the cost of living for hardworking American families. Now, look at this chart to your far right. Today's actions are saving over $2.4 billion for American families.
So the number is 2.4 billion. I was guessing from reports that I heard was 1.8 billion. So that just confirmed the number right there.
Saving over $2.4 billion for American families.
Yo, Virginia Chaos coming in. Speaking of money, by the way, the money always talks. We got Virginia Chaos with the 5 spots saying, hey, hooking pays the bills. Yes, it does. $20, $20. You know, $20, $20. Shit.
It's safeguarding 350,000 jobs. VC. Just in supermarkets alone, we're going to see a savings of $800 million, which Americans will be able to see when they go and buy their food. The Biden EPA face planted when trying to jam through their restrictions. Americans who wanted to be able to fix their equipment were instead being required to buy far more costly new equipment, and that just doesn't make any sense. Refrigeration trucks were being handed impossible restrictions to meet.
What's up, Chad with Stacks? Good morning to you, and happy Felony Friday. Great to see you in the chat, bro.
Once again, here we are in the Oval Office. President Trump is righting another wrong. At the Trump EPA, we are proudly implementing President Trump's agenda every single day and delivering for the American people.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please.
All right, no, that's where we're going to leave it off. That's all we needed to hear. We're going to literally move on from all that. Now let's bring our attention over to the Senate, U.S. Senate. We're going to specifically look at the Democrats here. They held a conference here yesterday evening, something about that, somewhere around that. Anyways, here we go.
Their majority can't melt down fast enough. Not when Americans' financial situation is melting down every day. Republicans are in complete disarray. They're at each other's throats, and the American people are suffering for it. Republicans are divided over things that Americans don't want, but Democrats are united around things that the people do want. For us to lower their costs, rein in the chaos, fight the corruption that is endemic to this administration. Republicans have tied themselves up in knots and torn each other to shreds over Trump's brazenly corrupt slush fund for his billionaire cronies and January 6th insurrectionists. They have soiled their reputation by fighting to fund Trump's billion-dollar ballroom at taxpayer expense. And all the while, Republicans haven't lifted a finger to lower Americans' costs.
Yo, real quick, got to give a nice little pause here because we got brother VC that sent in a Cash App, my man. We always appreciate you, Virginia Chaos. He not only donates, like gifting subs and shit, but then he sends in Cash Apps, man. I'm super honored by that. He sends in 10 spot. He says, for if everyone donated $1, Mike gets a tank of gas. Yeah, no kidding. Thank you so much for that, VC. We'll get, well, just a little over 2 gallons of gas with that. That's awesome. We got Sterling Wheel with the 10 spot as well, saying vertical side is gay.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
Shit. Well, Sterling, I can't thank you enough for making it rain in the chat, bro. Thank you very much for that.
Trapped in a corner by their own president, Republicans have their backs to the wall with no way out, nowhere to hide, no end in sight. The only way for Republicans to get out of this box is to stop backing the slush fund, stop pushing the ballroom, and as soon as we get back, join Democrats in fighting to lower Americans' costs on health care, on housing, on power, on childcare, and on so much else, and to join us in...
What the fuck? No way. Sterling Wheel just dropped a massive 20 banger right there. Dude, I can't thank you enough. That's a humongous whale right there, my man. Thank you very much for that. Look, we're eating big-ass sandwiches today.
Man, motherfuckers talk all the shit they want. But you see me, I'm sitting up here snacking on this big-ass sandwich, not getting a fuck. Kiss my dick, motherfucker.
Sterling, thank you very much for that 20 gifted, man. What a perfect time to do it is like on Fridays because we have members only on Saturday mornings, man. So make sure if you guys got a gifted membership, make sure you guys show up tomorrow morning. Every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. We do members only, but we don't discuss any of this shit. We have an actual good time. So anyways, thank you for that, Sterling.
Fighting the corruption that Trump just revels in.
Yo, you guys are going insane. What the fuck is going on here? What? Then we got TVT, becoming a member as well. I think his always does that, but he re-upped his membership, but for some reason it shows brand new. But thank you for that, TVT, as well. And we got Kel from Canada sending in a 10 spot as well. Thank you very much, kind sir. Wow, you guys are insanely generous this morning. I'm very beside myself at this point. Thank you for that.
But Democrats are moving full steam ahead to fight Trump's costs, chaos, corruption. Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Chuck. Is it possible on May 21st, 2026, the Republicans
Real quick, VC says, Sterling showing off, we messing Mike's news up. Yeah, no kidding.
finally found an ethical bridge too far? I wonder.
KP.
Could it have been that golden ballroom for $1 billion that was supposed to be freebie that Mar-a-Lago golf buddies were going to pitch in for? Or perhaps it was this incredible slush fund. I don't know quite what to call it. It was a Capitol Police cop beater.
The way that this guy kind of talks, like a little bit under his own voice, it's weird. It reminds me of Biden.
Relief fund, so that those who were convicted of assaulting the Capitol and their violent attacks will get a special premium payment by the slush fund. Maybe that was the bridge too far. I'm not sure we'll ever find out. This much we know. When the Republicans return home this weekend, as we do, they're going to find that the American people are sick and tired of this baloney. They want to get down to basics. Gasoline at $5.49 a gallon in Chicago. That's what it was when I left. Grocery prices up, utility prices up, rent prices up, and nothing from the Republicans and nothing from Trump to help these families. That's the real message of today.
Thank you. Senator Merkley.
This battle over the reconciliation bill is all about costs, chaos, and corruption. Costs, $70 billion, and not a penny going to healthcare, housing, education, helping people with the price of gas at the pump, nothing that American families are suffering from.
Real quick, Naomi sends in a 5 spot saying interrupting Mike, so he has to read this pointless message. Oh, come on. Appreciate you, Naomi, for the 5 spot.
That's
awesome.
$70 billion. And let's talk about chaos. Not a single common sense reform for ICE or CBP, who have been acting like secret police, terrorizing communities across this country. And then corruption. Well, certainly the $1 billion for a ballroom boondoggle worthy of Louis XIV, but totally inappropriate.
It's insane when the Democrats, man, when they focus on something, they really just cannot. I mean, they hyper fixate. It's just wild. I mean, I wish honestly Republicans would do the same on I wish they would do the same shit sometimes, but damn it, man, these Democrats, they're so good at honing in on one thing at a time like that and just losing it over it.
Democratic Republic, that's certainly corruption. But this settlement, in which Trump sues his own administration and his former defense lawyer serving as acting attorney general, proceeds to say, I know what, I'll give you $1.8 billion to hand out to whomever you want. I mean, that is really a world record in self-dealing.
What up, I'm
Think
a bit.
about any other country in the world where you've read about corruption. Have you read about a president giving himself $1.8 billion to hand out to his friends? I mean, all of this, finally, appears to be too much for our colleagues across the aisle. We are...
Yeah, no kidding about that, Virginia Chaos. I mean, that's legitimately why I got into what I'm doing now, was because I did always want to have a two-way conversation with what was happening. You know what I mean? I grew up that way, like thinking to myself, well, there's no way for me to communicate with them. You know, I'm just
hoping that they will join us in tackling the issues that families face across this country, join us in tackling the misbehavior of ICE and CBP, and join us in taking on this profound level of corruption that has known no equal in our entire 2 centuries plus of history, and probably no equal anywhere in the world.
Senator Schatz.
be good out there, Kel, up there in Canada. Real quick, I'm a bit C sometimes comes in and becomes a member. Yo, that's a big W. I always appreciate it. That's one of my favorite things ever is when people become members themselves. That's awesome.
People are really struggling out there. They can't afford their health care. They can't afford their utility bills. They can't afford to fill their gas tank. They can't afford their mortgage. They can't afford their rent. And you would think that if the political party in charge has basically 2 golden tickets to pass major legislation through this process, that they would prioritize making life more affordable for their constituents. But instead, they want to quadruple the size of ICE, they want to build a ballroom, and they want to provide compensation for the people that stormed this Capitol and beat up cops.
Oh my God, this fucking guy just, like, listen.
Bruh.
The real violence was the cops to the people. I don't know what you're talking about.
And so don't let anybody tell you there's not enough money.
The ones after they like let them in, you know,
in the United States of America. What they're telling you is that there is enough money for a ballroom. There is enough money to pay off their friends and violent insurrectionists. There is enough money to quadruple the size of ICE. There's enough money to start multiple regime change wars. What they are telling you is that there's not enough money for you.
That was
Thank you, Chuck.
pathetic. Look at this thing.
You know,
jeez.
Today, in this very present moment, this is actually a victory for the American people. When we go home to our states, we are hearing from people up and down in Delaware, up and down the state. I had a family reach out to us and say that we are no longer able to pay our bills. We're using a line of credit on our mortgage to pay our bills. We're not eating. This woman was 60 years old who wrote to us, and she said, she ended it by saying, I'm a Republican. Everybody is hurting across this country, and what this administration is doing is showing us what their priorities are. Their priorities are a gold-plated ballroom. Their priorities are a new reflecting pool, which we hope is not painted with the face of Donald Trump at the bottom.
By the way, this is Lisa Blunt, Rochester. She's a Democrat from Delaware.
They're showing us that their priorities are building detention centers. In the 250th anniversary of this country, this is not the direction that we should be going. People are hurting, and this administration is acting as if the American people are their ATM. And so we stand here today to say, we're glad that this happened today, that it was stopped, it was stalled, but we know this is not the end. This is the same group that last
Yo, real quick, we got James coming in on the Cash App, sending in a 420 saying interruption fee. Yes, sir. Well,
Oh shit! Oh shit!
we definitely put a halt to the show. Well, appreciate that, making it rain in the Cash App, man. Thank
Here
you
brought
very
you
much.
one big beautiful bill that gave money to ICE and CBP, but cut your health care. And so we're going to continue to fight.
Cut your health care. Yeah, we cut health care from illegals being on the healthcare system. Yes, that's where you see the millions of people have been, you know, yeah, it was hell. Get out of here. It was like, what was it? How many 1.9 million illegal migrants that were on our Medicare system or whatever.
We're going to continue to stand up for the American people. And as my colleague said, we hope that this is a new day for Republicans in Congress, that we take our power back.
Charlie
Because our
Rose,
power
good
stems
morning.
from the people. So I just want to thank Chuck for giving us this opportunity, but just tell the American people to stay tuned. We know this is not the end of the battle.
Oh my God,
Yes.
these people.
You mentioned you hope Republicans stop backing the slush fund. Is it anybody's understanding that any of your colleagues, any Republicans, are actually backing that thing?
The whole fight that they've had today is about bowing.
Yeah, real quick, Virginia Chaos. Mike's going to be forced into overtime. Yeah, no kidding. Well, dude, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stories to go through still, and we're already halfway through the show, theoretically.
Down to
Damn
Donald
it,
Trump
man.
and doing what the American people don't want them to do, whether it's the ballroom or the slush fund, or siding with the American people. And the bottom line is that too many of them are siding with Trump. They're either afraid of Trump, look what happened this week, or they are blind, so blind that they don't see that it's costs.
What's up,
That's
brother?
making
So
the
loud.
American people angry and frustrated. And frankly, we're angry and frustrated that Republicans don't join us. We want to help people feed themselves. We want to help
Okay,
people
got you,
be able
PJ.
to go to work
Good. Now that's good to know.
and pay for that tank of gas. We want to help first-time home buyers afford a mortgage. And they're busy fighting amongst themselves on something the American people don't care about.
I'm trying to listen to, but can't hear him.
Look, the FISA needs reform.
Yeah,
I think,
dude, that's interesting. Okay, for people that are new here, they won't really know that I'm a weirdo with audio. I always complain about bad audio. And man, you're totally right, Sterling. They're with it in that shit. They're like, we want to be heard. We want to be heard loud and clear, perfect, crystal clear, right? Damn.
almost all of our caucus feels it needs reform, and we're willing to work with the Republicans to get that reform. I don't think they know where they're at. Yes.
Senator Schumer, sort of up until now, the main Democratic electoral message has been affordability, the cost of living, prices. Are you guys now going to talk a lot more about corruption going into the fall?
Look,
because you've got now this fund.
here's the link. Corruption often leads to the high prices. Donald Trump sided with the big oil and gas industries and cut off the cheapest way to get power on the grid.
5150.
Donald
Good
Trump,
morning.
listening to a few big industry people, put in the tariffs that raise the costs. The two are tied together. Our goal is to get the costs lower, but the corruption in this administration pushes them to do the opposite. Yes.
Can you talk for a moment about what some of these amendments would have looked like? When I talked to Republican senators, they all said in this vote-a-rama had it happened, they said you guys would have had certain votes that would have put them in.
What's up, Mr. Jack Talcott? Blessings, kind sir. Good morning to you. Happy Friday, man.
Can you characterize, describe what?
No, I'm not going to get into the specific amendments, but we were going to, we made clear that we felt that this corruption was so vile
Brother Lee Lance, my man.
that
Good
we were
morning.
going to do everything we can in reconciliation to try to get it undone. And that is the case. It will, if they come back and keep these things in their bill, we'll keep that fight, but we'll also be reminding people over and over again on the costs of living, the affordability issue, which is number one and always has been number one for us. And the reason we hate this stuff so badly is not just its innate corruption, which turns your stomach, but because it stands in the way of us doing what the American people want, what we were sent here to do. Get down those prices. Yes.
Real quick, Sterling Will coming in with the 420 saying, what direction is your tobacco? Well, it's a counterclockwise tobacco, so I guess circular, right? Appreciate that 420, my man. Thank you very much for that. Epic.
Look, the bottom line is that this war in Iran he still hasn't said what the goal is. He still hasn't said how much it's going to cost. He still hasn't said how long it's going to last and how he's going to pay for it.
Why would you? Oh, my God.
For it. And so, yes, this war
I'm just gonna keep my
undermines all
mouth
the other
shut.
things that we think need to be done. Yes.
Mr. Leader, just to clarify, beyond possible amendments, is there anything that Senate Democrats plan to do legislatively to block this anti-weaponization fund? And separately, do you agree with the findings of this new DNC autopsy report?
Well, look, we'll do everything we can to stop this slush fund. whether it's in the courts, whether it's legislative, whether it's through reconciliation or any other legislative means. As for the second, I haven't seen the report yet. I've been kind of busy today. Last one.
That's so funny, PJ. That you're saying what everyone else is thinking, you know.
I think Trump has been far too cozy with Putin and not strong enough for Ukraine. One of the things we like to do is impose those
He literally just brought Ukraine up right there, Gary. That's
sanctions on
hilarious.
Russia, which still the Republicans aren't ready to go forward with. Thank you, everybody.
All right, hold on. So to answer the question there, Steve Easy, for the members only, I don't know what it's going to be yet. I'm going to end up deciding that when I start, when I start drinking, smoking a little bit, I'll come up with a cool idea. That's how I usually do it. All right, let's go ahead and get into, unfortunately, we do have some bad news. Well, most of this shit is bad news, obviously, but in the news yesterday, as you guys probably all have heard by now, NASCAR legend Kyle Busch dies at 41. Says legendary NASCAR driver Kyle Busch died on Thursday after being hospitalized and with an undisclosed quote unquote severe illness. Now, I have heard that he's been in and out of the, what I've learned about the situation since this whole thing's happened. He was in and out of the hospital dealing with a severe illness, but I don't know what that illness was. So anyways, let's go ahead and bring it up and we'll quickly show our respect.
We are following some breaking news right now. Take a look at this X post on your screen there coming from NASCAR saying we are saddened and heartbroken to share the news of the passing of Kyle
rest
Busch,
in peace.
a two-time Cup champion and one of our sport's greatest and fiercest drivers. He was 41 years old. We extend our deepest condolences to the Busch family, Richard Childress Racing, and the entire motorsports community. This news just coming in moments ago. Earlier today, the Associated Press was reporting that the two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion had been hospitalized with a severe illness and would not be competing at Charlotte Motor Speedway this weekend. That was according to his family earlier today. The family had posted that news on social media and said that he is currently undergoing treatment. Another X post on your screen right now coming from NASCAR saying
Oh, wow. Real quick before she reads that post, Steve Easy says Kyle Busch was my favorite driver. Had the opportunity to meet him and his family. He was a very funny, cool gentleman. Number 8, Rowdy Nation. Wow, man.
Future Hall of Famer Kyle was a rare talent, one who comes along once in a generation. He was fierce. He was passionate. He was immensely skilled, and he cared deeply about the sport and fans. Throughout a career that spanned more than 2 decades, Kyle set records in National Series wins, won championships at NASCAR's highest level, and fostered the next generation of drivers as an owner in the Truck Series. His sharp wit and competitive spirit sparked a deep emotional connection with race fans of every age, creating the proud and loyal Rowdy Nation. Our thoughts are with Samantha, Braxton, and Lennox, Kyle and Samantha's parents, Kurt, and all of Kyle's family, Richard and Judy Childress. Everyone at Richard Childress Racing, his teammates, friends, and fans. NASCAR lost a giant of the sport today far too soon. During this incredibly difficult time, we ask everyone to respect the family's privacy and continue to keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Further updates will be shared as appropriate. Once again, this breaking news coming in, this coming from TMZ saying NASCAR legend Kyle Busch has tragically died at the age of 41. This comes as the two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion had been hospitalized earlier today with a severe illness, and it was announced by his family that he would not be competing at Charlotte Motor Speedway this weekend. So we wanted to bring you this very sad breaking news here on Live Now.
May you rest in peace. It's terrible. All right, we're going to quickly move on into Trump advisor Stephen Miller speaks on $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, Cuba, and more. So he talks about multiple subjects here. It sounds like maybe he's even taking questions. I'm not really sure, but we're going to find out right here, right now.
Once in a while, we do see that some of the administration members, they'll do a press gaggle outside of the White House.
A gaggle?
That's what Stephen Miller did earlier today. Let's watch.
You're going to be gaggling these nuts. Shit.
They got to run to a meeting.
May I ask you
Yes.
something? When you were in China recently, obviously at the summit, the president brought up Jimmy Lai and also Pastor Ezra Jin, who are in Chinese detention. Have you heard anything since then? You request to free them?
I'll let the State Department answer any of those questions. Yes.
Can I ask you about Cuba? At this point, it was Secretary Rubio earlier today.
Yes, very quickly. I haven't asked you guys to do this today at all, actually. aside from my call to actions. But make sure you guys hit that like button. You guys don't have to like all this craziness that's happening around the world or here in our nation, but you guys can like it for what we do here on Insane Wheels. So thank you for that.
Maybe a Democratic path isn't the strongest likelihood. What's your take on that? And where do the considerations stand?
Well, on Cuba specifically, the most important thing to understand from a national security standpoint is that you have a nation that is 45-minute flight time from our shores that has been a foothold for our adversaries for generations. So when you think about it from
I got a question.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
national security standpoint, which is a foundational way to look at your question. You could have an adversary of the United States send, for example, attack drones to Cuba that would then be within very short reach of the United States territory and its citizens. We can't have a foothold for enemies, adversaries, or terrorists that close to American territory, that close to our shores. So you saw the indictment yesterday, of course, of Raul Castro for murdering American citizens. You've seen the sanctions that have been put into place. You've seen the actions the administration has taken. Ultimately, up to Cuba whether or not they make the decision to reform, to have a free country, to be a friend and partner of the United States, or if they choose a different path. So ultimately, in that way, their fate is in their own hands.
House and Senate meeting now, CP and ICE funding doesn't like to look like trying to get to the president's desk by June 1st, like you wanted. You see that after that?
Well, I would just appreciate the way you framed the question, but I would just say that the president has been incredibly clear that there is nothing more important than ensuring full funding for federal law enforcement, especially and including the brave heroes of ICE and Border Patrol. I would note that in addition to ICE's work, very essential on deportations, ICE also has one of the largest criminal investigative portfolios in the entire U.S. government. So a major component of ICE is Homeland Security investigations, which is a federal criminal investigation.
And man, they're talking, he's talking like as if, I mean, dude, we need to actually have real, real internal deportations. We need to ramp those numbers up. But hey, by the way, let's see, we're drinking healthy this morning. So cheers, Steve Easy. I see you. Boom. All right.
Arm with the same set of body of authorities as the FBI. They do a huge amount of work with Secret Service, for example, on protecting America from assassinations and lethal plotting.
Healthy drink.
They do the lion's share of work on child trafficking, child smuggling, child pornography, also drug trafficking, counter cartel, and many other essential investigations that relate to public safety. So it is a huge threat to public safety to not have full funding for the heroes of ICE and Border Patrol. And of course, on the southern border, you're dealing with threats every day from foreign terrorist organizations that operate on and control the territory all across Mexico on the Mexican side of the U.S. southern border. If I just for one more question, I'm sorry.
That is information in Brazil that next week President Trump is going to meet the Bolsonaro's son. Do you have this?
I don't have any update on that, sorry.
Is there someone that the president is unhappy with?
Sorry, I don't have an answer to that question.
Several Republicans don't seem to be interested in the $1.8 billion fund. Is that clearly was a sticking point today on Capitol Hill? Is there anyone that the president is reaching out to? Calls you, it's not going to be on his desk by June 1st, which I think is a deadline we had set earlier. So,
well, that's a good closing question, only because it allows me to say this, which is that we lived through 4 years of, more than 4 years actually, but I'll just say 4 years in this case, of unimaginable weaponization of the federal government against innocent people. We've had so many lives, it really goes back, so I would say further, but so many lives destroyed, so many livelihoods ruined, so many people who were deprived of their fundamental rights and freedoms as American citizens. And this settlement is just a small measure of the justice that they are owed. Anyway, thank you all for your time.
He was done with that. All right, so let's move in quickly. But first, actually, we need to embrace our fuck ups.
Don't beat yourself up over past mistakes. You are going to fuck up again in the future, quite possibly in a most spectacular fashion. Why worry about yesterday's fuck ups when you have tomorrow's fuck ups to look forward to? You are a fuck up, and fucking up is part of your growth process. Embrace the process.
I have now embraced the process. All right. So this next report shows U.S. used more interceptors than Israel against Iran attacks. Now, they're all our interceptors, whether they were Israel's or they were ours. They're all ours. I mean that's how that works. But anyways, that's an interesting fact.
All right, welcome back in Alive Now. I'm Austin Westfall. Take a look at this. The Washington Post with this exclusive saying the U.S. military has depleted much of its inventory of advanced missile defense interceptors after it's expended far more high-end munitions defending Israel than the Israeli forces have expended themselves. That's according to
must
DoD
be laying down.
assessments that were described by the Washington
bed.
Post. Let's bring in retired Marine intelligence officer, national security analyst, and the host of
That's
the
right,
Strap
Desert Outlaw.
podcast,
What's up?
Hal Kemper. He is here with me. Hal, how would you quantify the amount of resources that the U.S. has used to defend Israel, not only in the Iran war, but since October 7th?
Yeah, too controversial, and it's too messy on a legal ground as well. That he also has that issue too. But anyways, yeah, it's a very the left really don't like it.
2023.
Well, it's a tremendous amount of inventory. If you look at what was going on after that, you remember Hezbollah was firing missiles. Now, Hamas is firing missiles, not a big issue for us because those are missiles that basically Israel would intercept.
Right.
But we did have a ship stationed in the Eastern Mediterranean, and it did bring up in this article that many of these missiles were fired from ships. They were what's called standard missiles, SM-3, SM-6, that are fired from ships or in the Eastern Mediterranean sitting off there. So that's a big concern. And we're burning through this inventory. You may recall that we were shooting lots of these very expensive missiles down in the Red Sea area.
Man, it's crazy because they'll use these type of defense missiles against like a drone. It's just like, fuck, man, you guys use up $1 million munition to a $20,000 drone. It's like, damn it, man.
Mandeb Strait, dealing with the Houthis and the threats to shipping down there. And so basically what it's saying is, if you look at the number of missiles just in this one instance that they were looking at, of certainly THAAD, which is theater high altitude missiles. These go for the higher flying ballistic missiles for intercepts, and then these SM standard missiles off of the ships that we'd burned through over half our inventory. And that is a big issue because we have global responsibilities. Matter of fact, we weren't really, when you look at our inventory, it wasn't designed with Iran in mind. It was really designed with places like North Korea and certainly China in mind as far as intercept capability. The THAADs are the ones that they will go up and intercept some of these theater, high altitude, ballistic missiles that come in.
Right.
And we burned through a tremendous amount of them.
So THAAD and the Navy standard missiles, how hard is it to replace those types of missiles?
Those are slow producing inventories. I don't have the exact numbers that are being produced per year. They tend to be purchased in a lot, and then we don't produce a lot over a number of years. So it's like with every other thing that we're looking at in the missile inventory and a lot of other inventories out there, we have got to vastly increase production in order to keep up with demands worldwide. And we just haven't been doing it. And and this is part of what Secretary Hegseth talks about with the military procurement system. It is very slow, and particularly with ammunition. That's why he actually went in a while back.
I remember
Not
that
with
strike.
missiles per se, although this is ammunition. So I think we're going to do this with the missiles. But with drones, he says, I want to reclassify them as ammunition because we can buy ammunition faster than we can systems. And that's the problem with how DOD has this thing set up, or the Department of War has this set up in terms of procurement. So we need to vastly increase the number of missiles. And right now, when we're down half, it could take literally years to catch up with that.
Trump and Netanyahu, I was talking with Alone yesterday about this phone call that President Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had on Tuesday. Reports were that it was a tense call, and President Trump was talking with Netanyahu about the state of the ceasefire negotiations, Hal. But is it possible that this topic could have had something to do with it as well?
I think this is part of really what's going on there. I think it's part of the fabric of the discussion. Is we look at this, we're in Congress last week, or actually earlier, I think earlier this week too, explaining the cost of the war, which is approaching $30 billion for the war in Iran. And you have to remember the reason we're in Iran at this juncture. I'm not saying we would have eventually ended up here, but the real reason that we're in there at this juncture had a lot to do with Israel calling and saying, look, we have got to strike. And part of it was that opportunistic strike to take out the regime's hierarchy in one fell swoop, and then to go after all these other things that were tied to the regime, like their, ballistic missiles and all this other stuff. So So part of that was, Israel was very much part and parcel of why we're doing what we're doing now. And we're looking at that cost, and we're looking at this depleted inventory of absolutely critical air defense systems. And yes, I think that was part of the frustration that President Trump was having with Prime Minister Netanyahu, was to say, you have to consider how much we're spending on this thing. And then, of course, the other part is, you got to remember, Israel is also the biggest recipient of military aid in the world. So he's also been looking at that, and that's not a new thing.
Damn it, man. Both my fucking vapes that I've got right here died on me on the live stream. So now I got to go open up a whole different vape while I charge this motherfucker up real quick. Damn,
that's been
real quick.
talked about for a while.
I'll be right back.
That we will be eventually drawing down the amount of military aid that we provide Israel over time.
A live look at Tel Aviv just past 4:30 in the morning there. Hal, if this pace continues, and you touched on this earlier, but if this pace continues, which part of America's defense posture globally would feel the strain if the production of these defense missiles can't keep up with the demand?
Austin, that's a really good question. And I'll tell you where we're really looking, and I'll tell you who's vocalizing the concern more than probably anybody else, is Asia, and particularly the West Pacific. We're talking South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, all looking at these missiles, all of these critical missiles that they're looking at defending their homeland should they come under attack from someplace.
What's up, Joshua King, as well as Baked Biz Quick? Good morning to you guys. Great to see you guys in the chat.
It's like, well, with South Korea, definitely looking at North Korea, but Japan also looks very closely at North Korea as well. But definitely China. And looking at this, this depletes our global inventory. This didn't just say our regional inventory. It talked about our worldwide inventory of these missiles. And they're very, very concerned that we have used up a lot of missiles that they were hoping to have should something happen in the South China Sea, should something happen in the West Pacific, that they could rely upon the U.S. to have this inventory there that could help them out. And they're gone. And we're talking about maybe going back into more kinetic action where more of these missiles might be used. Obviously, grave concerns coming out of the West Pacific, out of Asia, and in military terms, we call it the Indo-Pacific, that's a term for that entire region.
And a region that you're very familiar with.
Yeah.
What does Israel, and let's just put a button on this because I know a lot of people have this question. I was looking up the different missile defense systems that the Israelis have. It's a multi-layered system. We're all familiar with the Iron Dome. They've also got David's Sling. They also have Arrow. So why does Israel need help from the U.S. when it has its own layered defense systems like the ones I just mentioned?
Well, what I should mention first is it brought up that over 200 THAAD missiles had been used. These are those really high altitude missiles to take out high flying ballistic missiles. Over 100 of the SM-3, SM-6, those are standard missiles that are used by the Navy. And then it compared that to what Israel had used, which was about 100 Arrow, which is pretty advanced air defense, anti-missile
Medium.
missile,
It's like a medium,
if you will. And then David's...
Because the Iron Dome missiles, or the not missiles, the anti, the missile defense is the actual Iron Dome is the short range, and then you've got the intermediate, then you've got THAADs.
Sling had used about 90 of those. And obviously in raw numbers, you go, well, wait a minute. The U.S. is using more missiles than Israel is using, and this is all to defend Israel. And that's been the big concern, is that we're using more missiles to defend Israel.
What's up, Seymour Cannabis? Good morning to you. Oh, it just started dumping right now. It's going to be raining for like the next 7 days straight. Awesome. All right, here we go.
And Israel is using its own missiles to defend Israel. And our missiles are very capable. Our systems are very capable. And there's reasons why we would do that. And it's a joint operation when we're looking at missiles.
It wouldn't be my first time, by the way, Steve Posey. Listen, there's been nights where I'm, little liquored up, and you go to, just light your cigarette or your left-handed tobacco or whatever, and end up catching a little bit. Yeah, that happens. It does.
Defense, and we're out there. It is completely integrated. It is incredibly time sensitive. And if the U.S. can take the shot, they take the shot. But with that said, Israel has the Iron Dome is a very capable system, and not all of that falls under the Iron Dome. I should mention it's multi-layered, so this thing's beyond.
Here, I got you, homie Pablo. You know that I'm gonna cover.
Man, motherfuckers talk all the shit they want. But you see me, I'm sitting up here snacking on this big ass sandwich, not getting a fuck. Kiss my dick, motherfucker.
Shit.
On the Iron Dome, that defend Israel from ballistic missiles and drones. But with that, the feeling is that Israel should have been probably using more of its own missiles, its own capabilities to do this, and relying less on the U.S. to defend their own, defend Israel.
What's up, Gus?
You can
Good
listen to
morning.
the Strap Podcast anywhere podcasts are available. Appreciate the time.
Yes, Hal Kempfer goes in depth with all of his reporting like that. His analysis is actually the one that I really take most serious, actually, compared to all the rest of them. Anyways, let's get into GOP lawmakers lash out over the $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund. And yes, it was specifically 1776. So anyways, here we go. Let me go ahead and bring this up. Give me 2 seconds here. Here we go.
Their duty is to show up, at least vote, and they're not doing it. Americans gonna hold them.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. We just experienced that. What did he just say? Let's go in for the motherfuckers in the nosebleeds.
Their duty is to show up, at least vote, and they're not doing it.
And he's talking about specifically the Senate and the House or whatever. But I mean that in the aspect of people don't vote in general. Like when you have a voter turnout of 7%, it's like 7% of the people get to decide who fucking sits. Like that's crazy. So all you have to do is cater to that 7% of people that actually go out and vote. It's sickening. And it takes a lot of money to do it.
Americans are going to hold them accountable.
Do you have a concern about the weaponization fund?
No, I don't have the fact they don't vote on it is a problem. The fact they didn't, I support it.
You do support it.
Do you support it without any guardrails? Do you think there should be rules
True,
about maybe
Steve
members of the
Easy.
administration or the president's family tapping into that fund?
No, look, all the good things he's doing, absolutely not. He puts the guardrails on. So with what we've got going on now with Iran and everything else, no, I don't have the promise. The Senate's advocated his job.
What about January 6th riders? Should they have any access to those funds? People who assaulted police?
Look, January 6th is an issue that was made up in the first place.
People who were convicted of assault.
Well, I know that was a staged thing from day one.
What about it was
January
staged?
6th. When you had police officers let people in the building, when you had people that's not being prosecuted, Ray, forget his name, there's no excuse.
Your colleagues, though, your Republican colleagues ran for their life and barricaded themselves in their chamber. Do you think they were acting?
No, there was a riot there, but it was a self-made riot by members who hate Trump. It was made up, in my opinion. Guy got to catch a flight.
Yeah. I got to catch a fly, he said.
All right, Roby Cam right outside of the Capitol. We want to continue on with more lawmakers speaking out. Let's listen in.
Leader Thune said, everybody go home. I mean, we got work to do. I'm got a markup here for the next several hours. I think the boss, the president, wanted this reconciliation package by June 1. Obviously, we let him down again. We continue letting down the leader of our party. And I think it's shameful. I mean, we have so much work to do, but we have a limited amount of time.
Now,
and we keep dragging our feet.
Remember, I was telling you guys when they postponed this whole thing and they said, okay, we'll stretch it out to June 1st and we can do this and we'll reconvene on this. And I told you guys, it's going to be the same fucking outcome it's been. It's like, yeah, June 1st is going to, get here quick. And as soon as it does, you guys are still going to be at a stalemate. Crazy.
And
Where do you go from here?
Well, I don't really think the issues are over here. The issues are on the other side of the road over there. They're the ones that seem like they can't get their act together. And I get it. You need 60 votes for most of this stuff. Reconciliation, you don't even need 60. You know that. So here we are now, and they went home. We got Memorial Day coming up, and now we don't have any votes tomorrow. So now we're going to go home. Everybody's going home, and we're not doing the job that we need to do to accomplish the goals and objective that the president has set forth.
That's a good question, Gary.
The American people voted him to be the president of the United States, and we need to follow his lead, but we're not doing it. We're not doing it. And I think it's shameful.
What's your thoughts of Democrats making, about this women's museum and the language in it?
Well, I don't know about that. I voted for the Women's Museum. I mean, I don't know what's the problem with the Women's Museum. I mean, that just kind of makes sense. I mean, we should be able to get along. We had a great markup in transportation today. We actually got some rail safety, and I worked really hard with the Vice President, and President Trump supports it. Everybody supports it. So we actually have some good work, some good bipartisan, work today on our surface reauthorization, and it's a big deal. So now we got some meaningful rail safety. Had to twist some arms, so to speak, but we got her done. So I was pleased.
And with the word biological women, I guess what they got an issue with.
It definitely wasn't a winning week for Republicans because they, along with their counterparts, are going to be leaving Washington this week without approving a package that would fund immigration enforcement agencies within the Department of Homeland Security as
Yep, fucked again.
tension simmered over a recently announced $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund that could provide payouts to allies of President Donald Trump there. So let's right now continue to follow always the very latest. I want to bring in our next guest to help break it all down from the Washington Post, Meryl Cornfield, joining.
I really don't need to hear her analysis. I'm going to be honest. Let's just see if we have any governmental posts here. Just give me a second. Let me see if there's any officials. Yes, there is a post here from Meredith Lee Hill. Hold on, let me go ahead and bring this back.
That Brian Fitzpatrick, a Republican from Pennsylvania, and Tom Suozzi, a Democrat from New York, are working on legislation to kill the $1.8 billion anti-weaponization DOJ fund that could pay allies of President Donald Trump, per sources that they've drafted text and are taking steps to unveil soon. And talking right now to members of the media is Representative Suozzi. Let's listen in right now on Live Now.
Come down one step, sir. I wanted to get Brian Fitzpatrick, but I don't know where he is.
We'll start.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Talk to us about the bill that you introduced with him today and what it would do.
I mean, the bottom line is that there's an abuse of power taking place that we've seen for a long time. But this one's so clear cut that Brian and I.
Yeah, and see what all this all is like point the fingers, you know what I mean? Like, oh, because it's so much easier to point fingers than it is to point thumbs. You know what I mean? Here we go.
I thought it was important that we do something together and try and recruit some of our colleagues to help us because the legislative branch has to exercise its power. This is clear. This is power of the purse. This is appropriations. And they can't just say, I'm going to use these funds for this type of dramatically wrong purpose without the authorization of the legislative branch.
Have you spoken to leadership about this bill?
No. What kind of reaction are you getting from your colleagues? I think that people are interested in it. I mean, obviously, most Democrats are happy to sign on to something like this.
Hold on real quick. Steve Easy says, Mike, did you see Trump banned the IRS from investigating him or his family? Wild work. Yes, I did hear about that. I only heard a very small headline of just that, basically. I did hear about that.
We work on how to get a Noah's Ark where we get one Republican, one Democrat, one Democrat. That's the challenge. And so this is just the beginning of the process. And we hope that not only in the House.
Yep. And that's exactly on the title of today's show. It says new Fed chair. And yes, that was happening today.
But in the Senate, the fact that they went home, this is a big part of why they went home. That and the ballroom. So
if leadership won't take this to the floor, are you going to do another destructive session?
That's always the last resort. I can't speak. Obviously, Democrats are going to be willing to sign on to something like this. You have to get the Republicans willing to do it. So I can't speak for Brian. That's why I would like to have done this with him. But he'll say it's always a last resort. He wants to get it on the floor. He wants.
Oh yeah, very true. Very true. We are in overtime, actually, and this is a good point for me to go ahead and leave these guys be. They're just losing, taking big L's. Anyways, yes, we are in overtime. You know what that means? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Let's get it. Send in your donuts. Absolutely. We haven't even done the money part.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
True. Very true.
Denied.
I still love you guys. All right. So we got Minnesota fraud. DOJ charges 15 people, alleges $90 million stolen in this particular operation here. Let's go ahead and bring this up. And that $90 million was taken from taxpayer funds, it said.
Welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. A developing story that we followed for some time out of Minnesota as fraud is running amok in Minnesota. The Justice Department bringing charges against 15 people accused of receiving federal payments for a variety of...
Welcome back, Naomi. And as well, we got Christopher Collins coming in. Good morning to you as well. Hopefully you're enjoying the morning. I definitely know that we are. Nice and rainy. And Sick Bastard says, like, sub, share, donate. Yes, sir. Make sure you guys double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. Hit that like button if you're on the horizontal. We always appreciate you guys. I'm a bit C sometimes comes in with the 5 gifted memberships. Yo, hold on. Let's get it. Very much appreciate that. I'm a bit C sometimes. Appreciate you.
Social services
that goes a long way.
Administered by the state government. And this comes as a woman convicted as what is being called the single largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the country, sentenced to more than 40 years in prison. This a post from the White House on social media saying the war on fraud, big win. 15 individuals just indicted in Minnesota for an alleged $90 million healthcare fraud scheme. American taxpayers deserve to know exactly where their hard-earned money is going. This is what accountability looks like.
What's up, Texas Gidget, as well? Good morning to you.
For more on this,
Happy
let's go
Friday.
out to Mike Tobin with the latest.
The fraud here in Minnesota is shocking.
The Trump administration announcing charges against 15 people, it says, scammed 7 different state-managed Medicaid programs for $90 million. The Healthcare Fraud Midwest Task Force promises more.
My message to the fraudsters is this: eat, drink, and be merry today, because your days of frolicking and freedom are numbered.
Officials cited programs intended to secure housing for homeless people and treat children with autism that collapsed as fraudsters piled on.
We will not allow criminals to treat children as billing opportunities while American taxpayers foot the bill.
The woman convicted as the kingpin in the massive Feeding Our Future scandal, Amy Bach, was sentenced today to 41 and a half years in
And that's
prison.
what you guys were pointing out in the chat a little earlier ago. Who said it? Let me see. Someone was saying that they heard about this and here it is. PJ, one Minnesota woman got 41 years. Yep, that was today. Actually, no, this was yesterday. Yes, this was yesterday. So.
Bach was also ordered to pay restitution on $243 million the government says was scammed through that COVID-era food program. It was intended to help kids during the pandemic, but ended with taxpayers being billed for meals that did not exist. Shackled in court, Bach sobbed and said, "I understand I failed. I failed the public, my family, everyone."
I don't take anything Amy Bach says at face value. Obviously, I'm sure she's emotional and sad. It's hard to watch someone be sentenced. That's true in any case.
Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar
Oh,
sponsored
boy.
the legislation exploited for Feeding Our Future. Her net worth has been referred to the House Ethics Committee, and the vice president promises to investigate her immigration status. Omar said she's not worried.
There's nobody looking into anything. They're just saying those things to get interviews with you guys.
The Assistant Attorney General told Fox News that fraud doesn't get this severe without a lack of oversight. And it's obvious, he says, Minnesota state officials were asleep at the wheel. In Chicago, Mike Tobin, Fox News.
All right, thank you so much for that. And HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. called this organized theft of some of the most vulnerable American children. And we're also hearing from the White House as Vice President J.D. Vance on social media saying today the task force and DOJ announced a massive takedown of the 2 largest Medicaid fraud cases in Minnesota state history, as well as the largest autism fraud scheme ever charged by a federal government. The message is simple. If you're committing fraud, we will find you. We won't rest until justice is served.
What's up, Hardwire? My man, good morning to you.
He
Happy
also
Friday.
released this video message on social media.
Just like all of you, I was shocked last December when I watched Nick Shirley's bombshell investigation of migrant fraud in Minnesota, which called attention to the now infamous Quality Learning Center instead of learning and other schemes across that state. This morning, the ringleader of the $250 million Feeding Our Future fraud scheme in Minnesota was sentenced in federal court to over 40 years in prison. bringing justice to the countless school children and families she had scammed. And on top of that, today, federal law enforcement launched a massive raid in Minneapolis. Across the city, agents have arrested 15 people for suspected fraud that amounted to $90 million. This includes two of the largest Medicaid fraud cases in Minnesota history, as well as the largest autism fraud scheme ever charged by the U.S. federal government. With this action, we're bringing justice to some of America's most vulnerable citizens and justice to the American taxpayer. In 2018, Minnesota tried to provide housing services for the homeless. They estimated that the cost of the program would be $2.5 million a year. By 2024, the program had exploded to $104 million annually, and almost all of it was because of fraud. As a result, the state had to shut down the program and can no longer provide those services to Americans in need. So we've got homeless veterans sleeping on the streets because fraudsters got rich. But it's not just the homeless who are the victims of these fraudsters. The victims in the cases announced by DOJ today also include disabled Americans who rely on community support to live full, independent lives, and citizens for whom defrauding such programs is literally a matter of life and death. In one of the most horrifying cases charged today, a recipient who needed 24-hour care was supposed to be receiving exactly that through a Minnesota Medicaid benefit program. But he received nothing. No care, no services, nothing for months on end. And then he went quiet. For 2 days, a neighbor tried to check on him, knocking on his apartment door. Nothing. Shortly after, he was found dead. One day before this man died, the fraudster in question had tried to bill for the non-existent services, the services that if they had been provided, this man might actually be with us today. To get rich off taxpayers, even at the cost of others' lives, just as that fraudster had for many months before. This kind of behavior is sickening. It's disgusting. It's an affront to all of us as Americans. And today we're saying clearly, no more. Our message is simple. If you are committing fraud, our task force will find you. We'll come after you, and we will not rest until justice is served. Don't defraud the American taxpayer. Don't get rich by trying to steal from them, or we are going to come after you until justice is served. That's our promise, and we're going to stick to it.
All right, you're just listening in there to the Vice President.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on into the next story here. Trump issues a stern warning to Iran this morning. This comes out only just about 3.5 hours ago. So let's go ahead and bring that up, and we'll quickly get into that. This is the latest news on the whole issue with Iran currently.
There on the right-hand side of your screen, taking a live look over the Capitol on this Friday as we get to all of the latest headlines here. Again, a live look as Republicans have now postponed a vote on a piece of legislation that would force President Trump to end the war with Iran. A vote on the War Powers resolution brought by Democrats was set for a House vote. However, it became pretty clear that Republicans would not have the numbers to defeat the bill. The party's leaders then delayed that vote until next month. President Trump launched the war against Iran more than 2 months ago without congressional approval, and the resolution means that Congress must review military action by day 40 of the conflict, which has long passed, of course. But President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth maintain that the war has been in a ceasefire for weeks, so the clock has stopped. 4 Republicans in the Senate earlier this week supported the resolution, advancing that to a final vote. Now, as for the latest on the war itself, President Trump has issued a very stern warning. I want to pop this up on your screen, coming in from Rapid Response 47. It says, right now, we're negotiating and we'll see, but we're going to get it one way or the other. They are not going to have a nuclear weapon. So as always, a lot to discuss here, and I do want to bring in a great friend of the show. We have Mark Chandler, lecturer and director of intelligence community engagement over at Coastal Carolina University. He is also a former senior defense intelligence official. Mark, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and helping to break down all the latest.
Josh, you're welcome, and thanks for having me today.
Of course. And I want to start by talking to you a little bit about the words from President Trump. This is obviously not the first time that we've seen any kind of warning issued by the president against Iran. We've also had Iran pretty much reply with their own threats overall. So when you look at these, do you think they really carry any sort of weight for either side as you have what is essentially right now a war of words?
Well, Josh, that's an excellent point. And I think what we're seeing is, number one, Iran is continuing its information campaign. And that's the type of words that we're going to hear from them, whether they're under a bombardment or we're in a ceasefire like we are right now. So that's continuation of what's going on. I think with President Trump, however, we see the strong statements, and we've seen those for some time. And I would say early on in the conflict or prior to the conflict, his statements were backed up with the threat of military force, and they carried a lot of weight. But what I think we've seen happen throughout the last several weeks of the ceasefire is he's continuing to make the statements, and Iran is responding by dragging out the negotiations. They're given just a little bit to kind of stave off an attack, and it seems to be working. While there's still some deterrent effect that the president has, I think his message needs to probably change a little bit and be backed up by military action. It's losing a little bit of its oomph, if you will.
And we've also talked a lot, you and I, and in general, about the Strait of Hormuz. That's another sticking point. We know that different countries there, the Gulf Arab nations, have said essentially that Iran cannot control it. We've also heard about tolls being charged to different vessels to get through there. So where do things kind of stand at this moment when it comes to the strait, and who really is in control?
Yes, sir, VC.
Well,
right now, we're on the latest update on regards to Iran. This came out about 3.5 hours ago.
I think right now you kind of see a stalemate in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's in control, not just because they say they are, but because of the threat of military action. And the United States has blockaded, but the blockade only works against Iranian-based ships or ships going to or from an Iranian port. So that's a very limited thing. It doesn't affect international shipping. What affects international shipping are two things: the threat that Iran poses on there, and the fact that the shipping companies don't want to put their commercial ships in harm's way, or they don't want to pay the exorbitant insurance costs that it takes to get through the Strait of Hormuz. So essentially, it is closed. This toll thing, I know Iran keeps talking about it, and as a matter of fact, Oman has entered some conversations with Iran to look at putting tolls on that, but that's an international waterway.
So it is saying right here, Fox News is reporting, it says President Trump gives Iran one of the harshest warnings yet as tensions grow between the United States and the Islamic Republic. Quote, we're going to either make sure they don't have a nuclear weapon, or we're going to have to do something very drastic. Real quick, Naomi sending in a 5-spot saying, let's show some love and hit that dono button. Thank you very much for that, Naomi. Always appreciate the love. Thank you very much for that.
Tolls are illegal. One state can't control that. If you put tolls on an international waterway like the Strait of Hormuz, what's to stop through, say, the Straits of Gibraltar or the Bab el-Mandeb on the Red Sea? So that's a precedent that's not going to be set. It is illegal in international law. So I think we're just seeing a war of words, especially as Iran earlier this week expanded its line of control, throughout the entire southern part of the Persian Gulf into the northern part of the Gulf of Oman. So the threat is there. We're at a stalemate.
And what you're looking at right now is this live look from marine traffic that we've shown several times. This is of the Strait of Hormuz. And again, you can see the different colors. Those are just different types of vessels, talking about oil tankers as well as other ships and vessels out there. And the ones that have the...
Yes, so the red is oil tankers. And then you've got normal cargo vessels, which are green.
The arrows mean that they are actually moving, but the circles mean that they're...
Yeah, but a lot of times that they're not actually moving. AIS just picks up like as if they're moving, but they're actually anchored. That usually happens. Now, these boats probably right here are actually moving. But over here, maybe not. Like over here, these guys are probably all anchored up too. But AIS... anybody that has used marine traffic or any of this shit knows that.
Stationary, not able to go anywhere. Again, we've shown this quite a few times there, and it just kind of gives you an overall picture of where things stand. Now, Mark, also wanted to ask you about the behind-the-scenes action because, again,
yeah, let me go into the chat and do
privy
that.
to any behind-the-scenes operations that are happening, but based on your expertise, I have to imagine that President Trump, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, they're not releasing every detail as it's happening because a lot of this does have to remain top secret, classified for that element of surprise.
No, it absolutely does. And this administration has been good at that. They've been good at operational security throughout this campaign. As a matter of fact, big surprise when they started this campaign back in February. So we look at that and we see the effects of that. That's paramount. That protects our forces. It protects our intelligence. But behind the scenes right now, throughout the entire ceasefire, the intelligence community has been working overtime. And when I say that, Iran has been moving its forces around, trying to prepare for when that U.S. and Israeli attack is going to come. So they've been working to move their
Yes,
drones.
anytime that, we have a ceasefire like what we're seeing right now, any CIA operations, intelligence operations, all that's oftentimes when it ramps up to that. It goes to 11, right? Like it ramps up to 11 when something like this is going on. Absolutely.
Attack locations, their missile attack locations, trying to recover some of those assets and regenerate some of those assets. Intelligence has to strike those. I mean, intelligence has to prepare the operators to strike those targets. So they've been working 24/7 nonstop to know where everything's going, along with the new Iranian leadership. So that's what we've seen take.
Yes, I think he usually is in the horizontal, but I haven't seen him comment in a minute.
In place. A few weeks ago, I think about 2.5 weeks ago now, the CENTCOM commander was at the White House. I would probably tell you that he
and I am paying $3.99 a gallon right now.
Offered a series of targets, an escalation ladder, if you wanted to call it that, where we have limited targets that can take out, say, defenses in the Strait of Hormuz, all the way up to key leadership targets. And we still have to go down a couple of levels in the Islamic regime's leadership to get to somebody who might negotiate. So all of those targets have been developed and they're ready to go. Within hours of the president saying, let's launch a strike, we can start putting bombs on target.
And you're looking at a post here from Lindsey Graham as he got kind of lengthy there, saying President Trump again today was firm and unequivocal that Iran will not be allowed to continue to possess over 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium. Iran could use it to make a dirty bomb or in the future could potentially weaponize it at 90%. He again today reinforced his determination not to allow Iran to have a path to a nuclear weapon. There is no path to a nuclear weapon without enrichment capability. The president has been insistent that Iran not be allowed to enrich because of their history of cheating. This, along with the stated goal to make sure Iran cannot continue to support terrorist proxies, are, in my view, the red lines for negotiations for good reason. Time will tell. Now, there was a report that started to circulate via several different outlets here that essentially said that Iran's new prime minister, Mashtaba Khamenei, had actually kind of put forth there that the enriched uranium would not be going abroad. It must be stored there in Iran as part of any kind of deal. President Trump obviously saying that's not going to happen. Not really a surprise there, though, because President Trump has said Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. So I have to imagine if the supreme leader is kind of sticking to that point, it's not going to end well.
I don't think it will, Josh. I'm very skeptical right now of where we are in these talks. Pakistan, it has leadership in Tehran right now trying to get Iran to back off of some of these statements. What the supreme leader said yesterday, that doesn't bode well for Iran wanting to give up its enriched uranium. That's at 60% right now. So the problem is Iran, even if they give that up, they have to give up the desire for a program.
He said it like as if like that's what they're going, and then they go past that. They actually stop at 60% on purpose. It's a negotiation tactic. Literally, that's all it is.
I would say that we have probably set the program back 5, maybe 10 years when you look at the bombings that we've done, but we have not eliminated, nor have we eliminated Iran's desire for that. So we have to look at that. That's a strong statement from Mashtaba. So we have to go forth and say, okay, that's their position. But is he really in charge? Is his posturing? I just look at the fact that I don't think we're seeing a good outcome other than delaying for Iran, how these talks are going to proceed. And what Senator Graham said, there were a couple of good points that he had in there, but I would offer that there's probably 5 key points if we go through any deal that really sets Iran back and kind of promotes regional and global stability.
Right now.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. That was a good enough amount of analysis from the situation. All right, let's go ahead and get into this next story here. An interesting thing that we've been following was the UFO files. We've been following it only a very small amount of time. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but this came out this morning. Department of War releases new UFO files. Let's just go ahead and check this out real quick.
Is actually get you to some breaking news that we are following. The information slowly coming in here as we take a look at this. Now, this is from the Department of War, and the breaking news involves the so-called UFO files. The War Department now releasing a second batch of those previously classified documents, videos, and images. earlier this month, the Pentagon set up a website where it made public the first set of those once classified documents. And you can actually see some of the information that's coming in right here on your screen there. It kind of breaks it down for you. President Trump had said that he would be more transparent on the curiosity that surrounded UFOs and UAPs and said the public can draw their own conclusions. Now, the website war.gov/UFO, you can see it there on your screen, received more than 1 billion views worldwide since launching earlier this month on May 8th. That is according to the War Department just releasing that moments ago. The Pentagon added that these files will continue to be released on a rolling basis, and the department is actively working on the third release, which will happen in the near future. Now, this is what we're told here coming in from the Pentagon a short time ago. Right now, what I want to do is pop up some of the video right here because, again, we have been following all of this as the documents have become unclassified, and we start to see more and more of the videos being released. Now, with the documents and information, photos, videos released in that first batch, we learned that Buzz Aldrin observed a, quote, fairly bright light source while he was aboard Apollo 11. A mysterious object, he says, made, quote, multiple 90-degree turns at a speedy clip, and a blaringly bright object doing corkscrew twists over the skies of Kazakhstan. Now, again, this is all information coming in that first batch, and now we're getting a look at the second batch of files. Not sure just how many there are, but if the war.gov/
Welcome back, 5150.
UFOs website there has already received more than 1 billion views, you have to imagine they are going to get a lot more today as the information comes out. Now, this is from the Department of War, the Pentagon posting this, saying the Department of War is publishing the second release of declassified and historical unidentified anomalous phenomena, that's UAP files, as part of the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters, which is known as PURSUE. The collection continues to be housed on war.gov/UFO, and additional files will be released on a rolling basis. Again, President Trump has said,
and of course, we'll be following any of these releases. Of course, just like Trump, I guess, said, we'll let the public figure out what the hell it is. But listen, I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough. Listen, stick around. We're also going to be rating our buddy Old Mac. He is like, I think 86, 87, 88, something like that. He's awesome, dude. You know what I mean? He's on YouTube. Make sure you guys let him know that we're coming through with the Mike Ball raid, and show him a little love, man. He's a very amazing person. And actually, I met him through the internet, but he happens to live in my county, which is crazy. Anyways. So, listen, we'll be back not tomorrow morning for the World's Madness. We're going to be for members only. That's what we do on Saturday mornings. And then, of course, we'll get back to the World's Madness on Monday morning. So, all right. Much love, honor, respect, everybody. God bless everyone. Be safe out there. Enjoy your weekend. And stick around for that raid. We'll see you guys very soon.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken, he rides on 2 wheels, ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow, he takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry.